What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 80 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friends and co-hosts, Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
What's up?
And AJ McRae of Redirect. Welcome back to the show, AJ.
Hi, I am here. Pokemon things happened.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the last episode you were on for, and I think it might have been a Pokemon
Had
Presents.
to have been a Pokemon thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's Pokemon Day 2023 has just come and gone. We're like about a day removed here. We had a bunch of fresh new Pokemon news over on the latest Pokemon Presents, and we're going to talk about almost all of it. Some of it, we'll dance around, but yeah, I'm excited to jump into it with you two. I feel like reactions to this overall felt a bit mixed, but it's like I feel like Pokemon is kind of always damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Like that, yeah.
You know, it's like on the one hand, we yell at them for putting out too much stuff, and then if they don't announce 10 new games every Pokemon Presents, we're upset. So you know, what are you gonna do? But there's some good stuff to jump into. So we'll go in it in like, you know, loose chronological order. So the kind of first thing they kicked off was talking about the Pokemon World Championships, which are going to be held in Japan for the first time ever, August 11th through the 13th. I was surprised by that. I didn't realize that it had never taken place in Japan before.
Same.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, like, I guess in retrospect, I knew that because like Worlds is like relatively new. Like it's not new,
sure,
but like it's like half as old as Pokemon, you know. So it's like I can think like, okay, they had them like, in these locations, and Japan wasn't one of them. But it was never like a front of mind thought of mine until they said that.
Yeah. And I guess that makes sense, right? Like Pokemon being such a global brand, there's fans all over the world. So, you know, and it's not like Japan is like the biggest country in the world. And it's probably out of the way for a good percentage of the audience, I guess. Whereas like, you know, if it's in like Europe, it's like that's kind of a midpoint for everybody, right? Like
that's
to some degree. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that they kind of like started off talking about that, and they were like hyping up the live broadcasts and everything, which is something I feel like they've really tried to grow over the last couple of years and make it more of like a spectator event, which is great. You know, like I always enjoy watching Worlds. Seeing this, I was like, dang, I really wish I could make it out there. I imagine like the first one they're doing, you know, in Japan is probably going to be quite a production.
Yeah, I saw like mutuals who were like, buy my tickets. I'm like, how? How do you uproot your life for 2 weeks? Because you have to go to that side of the world for at least 2 weeks to make that flight worth it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even feel like 2 weeks is long enough, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna be over there.
I've been talking about going with a couple of my friends, and like our plan is to be there for like 3 weeks because it's like, hey, if I'm going, I want to like see everything. You know, it's like Lord knows if you'll ever get to go again. But yeah, it's definitely a cool one. They showed off some of the new art and everything, and definitely something to look forward to. And I think it's cool that Pokemon Unite has like snuck its way in there. You know, like the last year, like it's only year 2 of it.
Rip
and
Pokken though, rip.
I know,
never got its flowers.
Yeah. Because was it at Evo last year or was it 2 years ago? There was like
it's usually at Evo Japan. They did have it at Worlds for a while. But the last Worlds was the last time that they had it there.
Damn.
And that was just like the nail in the coffin when they were like, we're done with Pokken, we're taking it out of the show and replacing it with Go or whatever. I was like, damn, that means we're not getting like a sequel or like DLC or something. Like, rip.
Yeah, it's a shame. I would love to see them go for like a 2, you know, and like give it a bigger roster and like a bigger push on Switch. Rather than it being
Namco, they said they're interested, so it's really just on
balls
them.
in your court, Pokemon Company. Come on.
Yeah.
Speaking of like that event, there is a new product that they talked about that I am upset with myself for how interested I am in it. If I'm honest, the Pokemon trading card game Classic is coming out, and it is basically a deluxe package that gives you like the whole set of the original, reprints of the original cards. so that it's like kind of an all-in-one way to play the original version of the TCG. And it had like all these cool little damage, like custom damage counters and everything. Like it looks like a proper like board game kind of setup.
It was like it gave me like the premium like chess sets.
Yes,
like it gave me
yes.
that kind of vibe.
That
Like
vibe.
this is gonna be exorbitantly expensive.
You
Like,
gotta imagine, right?
Yeah, but with that
I would
playing
be
mat
shocked
too.
if it's under $300. Like shocked.
I know, right? What were those the damage counters? Are like the cone guys, right?
Yeah, they were little cone guys so that you can stack them, so that like you don't have to have like a bunch of counters covering up your card. I guess you can like put them in a corner.
Cool, but like if you're gonna make it like the original, give me those little marbles.
I need the pogs and the little the little yeah, they were like they were marble-ish, but they were not round. They were like little flat like glass ovals or whatever. Yeah.
They were like Mancala pieces.
Yes.
You gotta make it highfalutin. You gotta feel like you gotta wear a monocle to touch this thing.
This is the premium.
So that they can charge you $2,000 to have it.
I'll be sick. Okay, listen, I get like yeah, maybe you won't be under 3,000, but like if they charge
It'll probably,
under 300,
I think
but like
2,000.
yeah, better not be in the 1,000.
Here's the thing, Sierra. What we're
I
gonna
don't
do
think
is
it's gonna
we're
be
gonna
bad.
buy a set, and you and I will make a video of us playing it, and then that's a write-off. That's a write-off right there.
True.
We're making content.
True.
True.
No, just
Exactly.
lobby harder. Get Pokemon Company to send it to you. I had
Honestly,
emails.
I gotta hit them up and just like only send them episodes that Steve's not on.
Aren't they not fans of cussing though? I cuss a lot.
we
I mean,
never. We are.
trust it, like, all the time. They send me stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. If they're sending AJ stuff, they'll send us stuff. I feel
Okay.
like we're similar levels of rapscallions.
Yeah.
Although when I eventually come on your podcast for the first time again, AJ, I'll have to, I know.
Oh yeah, you do. You curse more. You curse more. Than you. Like YouTube. All right, maybe they just saw YouTube. I don't know if they saw Twitch. They saw Twitch because I usually when they send me cards, that's where that stuff goes. Twitch.
Popping them open.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, they haven't talked about what the pricing is going to be. They said that the launch date is like late 2023, and that there would be more information about it at the Worlds event. So, I'm imagining they'll probably give us a price and like a pre-order opening in August, like at that event. Oh boy, I want this stupid thing. I want it bad. I'm sure I will spend too much money on it if I had to guess.
Understandable.
I'm debating it, and I'm not even huge into the trading card game.
Me neither. Like I fell off of it a long time ago, like probably back in Gen 2 era. I think by the time Advance rolled around, I was definitely done with the cards. And I have had multiple points where I've had friends who are either board game people or TCG people like casually get back into it and be like, oh, why don't you buy some packs? Like, let's make some decks. And I'm like, no, you are asking me to do cocaine. Like you are trying to hand me a heroin needle if you're telling me to get into this thing.
Hey, there's friends that ask that.
Yeah, but I gotta avoid them, AJ. But see, with this, I like the idea that it's like a set, right? Like it's just the first set. These are the things that are legal, and it's
That's how they get you in, man.
I know.
They're like, hey, we give you everything. You can spend more money on this. It's everything.
You're too right. You're too right.
And then they're going to do Series 2, and that'll be Gen 2, and it'll be like it'll be like 25% more expensive. And it's just, this is where it starts.
This is a test of our willpower.
Oof, gosh, that is a test I am not confident that I will pass. We'll see how it goes. The next announcement was an interesting one. Netflix and the Pokemon Company are partnering to make a new stop-motion animated series called Netflix's Pokémon Concierge. It is going to be taking place at a resort where there's like an employee there named Haru, and the guests that visit the place are Pokemon. So the general premise seems to be like, I guess kind of like a Monster of the Week thing where there'll be like different Pokemon that come up and she gets on an adventure with them and and I guess you'll see what happens. But I think the headline for me is less about the content, which I am excited about. I like the idea of a show that's not about a trainer and battling and all that stuff. That's something I know we've talked about a lot on this show, is like how much opportunity there is in the world of Pokemon for things that aren't, just the Pokemon League and catching them all and all that, right? But the fact that it's a stop motion thing is really interesting to me. That's a very unique choice. Yeah, and it's more expensive to make stop motion, right? Like it feels like an investment in doing something creative and different that's like outside the house style that we've come to expect with Pokemon for so long. And that's exciting to me, right? Like even if this is all we get, that's cool. But I mean, maybe it's a first step for them trying other different stuff like this that's a little out of the comfort zone, that I think, we've come to expect. And the fact that we've seen like Legends Arceus last year and like other things that I think are representative of them trying new stuff and being willing to innovate a little bit, that's like all I really want out of Pokemon. So I'm stoked about this.
I have
I feel like
mixed
they've been.
feelings.
Go for it.
I don't know. Like I grew up loving like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, Corpse Bride. So I don't know why I have pause, but
You're
Oliver
expecting
Twist
it to be
judge-
creepy.
it's giving Fantastic Mr. Fox. I don't know.
Oh my god.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I also don't know if it's gonna be like a Monster of the Week thing. I don't know that they can stretch that to like 24, 22 minutes, whatever the Netflix.
There are 1,000 Pokemon, Sierra. They can do it.
Well, I am eager to see the effort.
It's interesting because like I could kind of see it being like what a lot of the filler episodes of the anime were like, where it would just be like, oh, on this week, like Ash and friends like met this Pokemon that has a problem, and we're gonna like this Ditto can't transform right, let's help him, or like whatever, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if like that would be the kind of like rhythm of the show a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think
AJ?
that there's like I don't know if they're going to do this, but I do think that there's a lot of like material for them to go off of. Like a lot of the more interesting anime episodes that aren't just like, is Ash gonna win the Pokemon League or whatever, are the ones that like take a specific Pokemon lore thing and extrapolate on it. Like stuff like the Drifloon or whatever, or Drifloons, where it's like, oh, it carries kids, right? And they extrapolate on stuff like that in like the anime or even in like arcs or whatever, right? I think that this is a good opportunity to like teach people more things about Pokemon, or even to form more lore related things about specific Pokemon that weren't already there. And I think the like untapped potential of Pokemon that could like really set it apart further from just being like this RPG thing that just blew up, is like deep diving on the lore that they already established for a lot of different Pokemon. Because there's a lot of cool stuff there that doesn't really get to be explored in a natural way with the way that the games are already set up, and the way that the anime is even currently set up.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting that for a world that I think I would largely describe as feeling pretty cozy, despite how much horrific nightmare stuff there is in the world of Pokemon, that there's no like Pokemon slice of life anywhere. Like that's just not really a thing.
Why is there not like a documentary series? Like that was not natural to them.
Such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, hopefully this represents a willingness to explore some of that stuff a little bit more, and we'll see. Sierra, I hope you like it because I'm probably gonna make you review it with me. So
okay, no.
To their credit, like they've been inching towards doing cool, interesting things with animation for a while now. It's just been like through more like digital efforts, like on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
the
started
YouTube
with
shorts,
Generations and Origins, and all that stuff.
I mean, Origins I really love, and I haven't watched every Generation short, but everyone I've seen I thought was really good.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, so I mean, it's certainly
and Evolutions too is good.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
And then there's the Hisuian Zoroark one with the shiny Zoroark. I mean,
that I haven't seen.
There's that. They did that Bidoof thing. Like all of it
Mhm.
is at least interesting.
A lot of the animated shorts are all like an absolute joy. They're so good.
Mhm.
Yeah, so hopefully this hits. I'd really like for this to be a win and something that they look at as like, oh, we should probably double down on this. We should do more weird stuff.
It'll
Cool.
also be the first Pokemon Netflix thing that when they say a Netflix original, it's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
This anime has been going on for longer than you existed.
It's an original.
We made this.
So then we got a little bit of an update around Pokemon Unite. Zacian is going to be joining as a playable character. The latest patch is bringing back the Boss Rush mode that was out a while ago, and it's been gone for quite some time now. I don't know about y'all. I think about this game a lot. Like I think about like how much I enjoyed it at launch and being like, damn, I kind of want to go back and see like what's happened in the season that I missed. And I never quite get there, you know? Like every time they remind me it exists, I'm like, damn, this was really some fun, you know? Like I sunk a lot of time into that game when it first came out.
Is it the fear thing for you? Because it is for me. I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be like if I go online now.
It's like there's that like you're gonna jump in and just be like, oh, I'm gonna get raffle stomped. Like I'm not gonna remember. There's gonna be new characters that I don't know what they do, and you know, but I guess that's kind of the nice thing. I guess is like since we haven't played in a while, like we must have ranked down to the point where we're probably back in like the noob range, you know, and could hopefully shake the rust off, but.
True.
I definitely think that's been a big part of it for me of just being like, yeah, like I want to get back to it, but I want to be as good as I was, not have to like relearn the ropes, you know?
Right.
Mm.
What about you, AJ? Have you been playing it at all?
No, not really. I mostly just don't play it because I think solo queuing in games like this is self-hate. And I don't want to do that. So like I'm always down, like if people want to like group up and play it, I'm here. But there's nothing in me that wants to play Pokemon Unite by myself at all. So like when Zacian's and I'm like, oh neat, that's cool for people that play this game, but it doesn't make me want to play it.
So what I'm hearing is we need to squad up again.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I'm down too. I'm sorry. I've been a busy bee, but like I want to get back into it. I really do.
Well, we'll circle back to it when your album's done, Sierra, and we'll have to figure this out because I would definitely be down, even if we just get our asses kicked again.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was fun.
It's true.
I need my MOBA fix. You know, I haven't been playing League of Legends for a couple of years. I'm feeling the call. We're not going to talk about Pokemon Cafe Remix because it's just
why not?
Okay. You know what? Here they added Sprigado, Quaxley, and Fuecoco, and there's going to be a in-game outfit for Chef Greninja. There you go, everybody. Pokemon Cafe Remix.
We're not even going to talk about the food that they made.
That's why I play it. The food is so good. The food is so cute.
Do you play this game, Sierra? You're into Pokemon? Are you hype about this? I didn't know we had a fan. Go ahead. What's up? Take your minute.
You noticed me like when I came back and I was like, I noticed we nixed Cafe.
I didn't know that was why. All right, here. You know what?
I saw the red.
I'm adding it back. I'm adding it back. It's green now. Talk about it. Talk about it.
I'll be quick. I play like 10 times a year, and those 10 times are very, very fun and wholesome. It's hard to keep up with regularly, and I think the UI is fucking too cluttered and like very stressful. But I think that like the interactions you get with the different Pokemon and the little, I don't know, it's very cute. It's just a good quick fix if you're fucking bored at like the DMV or like you're sitting on your couch waiting for food to arrive.
It's funny. I kind of like forgot what the gameplay of it was, and then when they showed it, I was like, "Oh, this looks like a fun little puzzle game." Like, you know, I could see myself maybe giving it a shot. But like, I'm still deep in the throes of my Marvel Snap addiction, so I don't know. You know, who knows?
Yeah, understandable.
I had to stand with that game.
I am wrestling with that dragon every day. So.
I don't know. Mobile games usually don't stick with me. I don't know why. Because, like, I'm not against them. I just, like, I play it and I'm like, all right, I played it. Goodbye. and then I live my life.
That's usually the thing for me is like I think a lot of them like when they have a typical mobile game pay structure, like I run out of content quicker than I run out of willingness or interest in playing the game, and then like that usually ends up being the thing for me is like once they're forcing me to spend money, it's like it's not fun anymore, right? So I'm out. Whereas like with Marvel Snap, like it's just a good card game. And, like, I can spend money on it, but I haven't in a season and change because I have enough cards now. I have decks that I like. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm just going to keep playing and get my free unlocks. And, you know, eventually there'll be another season where I'm ready to plunk down another couple bucks.
Yeah. I wish that mobile games could also, like, hold my attention longer. But, like, it's usually, like, I go on a streak for, like, 2 weeks where I'm addicted. And then the second I fall out of my rhythm, I'm gone.
Yeah,
absolutely gone.
And then it's like, all right, uninstall. That's it. I'll never touch this again.
That's right.
So speaking of apps, we finally got a look at Pokemon Sleep, at which it feels like they announced this. What, like, was it 4 years ago?
Was
Five?
It was 2019.
Was it not 2019?
Yeah.
I thought I was dreaming. When they find
were you dreaming?
Oh,
were you Pokemon dreaming, Sierra?
Oh no! It was like Pokemon Sleep when I was Pokemon dreaming. Damn it!
To Pokemon Sleep, a chance to Pokemon dream. So we got a full-length trailer. We have an actual idea of what this is as a product now.
A new logo.
Yeah. It did
Somehow they just now incorporated Snorlax. They're like, oh wait, fuck, we have a sleeping Pokemon.
We got a guy who that's his whole thing. Oh. So you know, it's I don't know. It's I think it's in a lot of ways it's what you would expect based on what the toothbrush equivalent was. I forget what that one was called now, but
I forgot about that.
You know, it's an alarm.
Except this one somehow like accrued like a cult following and that like turned on this game so fast. Because like leading up until every Pokemon Presents since this thing was announced, people are like, we're gonna see Pokemon Sleep. I hope we see Pokemon Sleep. And then we see Pokemon Sleep, and then people are like, oh, we saw this Pokemon Sleep. Like,
no matter what they do.
I saw people in replies leading up to the direct, like, it's like that meme where, like, the person is, like, a shell of a human being and they have, like, wrinkles and they look like a corpse.
Yeah.
And it's like Pokemon Sleep waiters be like.
Yeah, they needed to sleep. That's why they look like that. They're exhausted.
Just gaslighting the Pokemon company into thinking that people really wanted this thing. It's a vitality sensor all over it.
That's why it's been like delayed so many times. Like, oh my god, the expectation for this thing is through the roof. We gotta get it right.
People really want this. Maybe we delay it.
It's so funny because I look at the what the app looks like, and I'm like, this is what my Fitbit does. It took 4 years.
Yeah, but your Fitbit doesn't have Snorlax. So like,
that is true.
That is true.
That is fair.
Yeah, I mean, like it's an alarm clock mixed with a Fitbit like sleep tracker, and there's some collectathon stuff in it. Like that's really what we're looking at,
but
right?
You can get a Bulbasaur with a hat.
Yeah,
you get like
that's true.
You can get
oh
like
my God.
Charmander.
That's the thing, right? Like as a huge dork, I'm not getting a Fitbit, right? Like I'll be fat, that's fine, but I'll do this. I'm like. You know, like
you do have to sleep.
I have to sleep. They make
Yo, Pokemon Go makes people go places, dude. This will make people sleep.
It's true.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe too much. I saw this and how they were like, "Yo, reward you for all different types of sleep." I'm like, "Yo, so many people's productivity is going to plummet now because they're like, I could do something with my life, but like if I sleep, I might be able to get like a Makuhita."
Damn, I can't get a good RNG manip on this fucking.
I gotta take another nap. The IVs are no good on this Bulbasaur. Let's do it again. Oh my god. Yeah, that was the thing I thought was really interesting. Is like so the whole thing is like it measures, records, and analyzes your sleep, and that there are Pokemon that have like sleep styles, and if they're similar to your sleep style, they'll show up. And they had this whole thing about like, oh, you can collect them all, and it's like, how? Like, I'm supposed to change the way I sleep?
Yeah. It's like, try every sleep schedule imaginable. That'll turn out great.
Oh my god.
If I ever drop acid and then hook up to this thing and go in a 48-hour bender, I'll let you know the result.
Yeah, what Pokemon do you get for that? Maybe that's the only way to get a shiny Snorlax. You gotta try it out.
It's like, all right, you guys, you got to try this new thing called sleep edging, where you see how far you can go without sleeping, and if you can make it 48 hours without sleeping, and then you sleep for 2 days, you'll get this secret Snorlax.
Yeah, you unlock like demonic Pokemon, like sleep paralysis.
They start looking.
Yo, that's how you get Darkrai. That's how you get Darkrai.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We're gonna be on therapy now.
I loved too that like they so alongside this announcement, they revealed the Pokemon Go Plus, which is just
I hate everything.
Exceptional
about
branding, exceptional.
The Pokeball Plus, the Pokemon Go Plus, the Pokemon Go Plus is great. Why? We couldn't think of a better name than this.
Go Plus and Knuckles 3.
True. That's next.
Pokemon Plus and Knuckles.
Why couldn't they just do different Pokemon? They could have just did that.
Make it, yeah.
You could have did a
legitimately
Pokeball Plus, a Great Ball Plus.
I would never use this thing for a practical purpose, but if it was a Great Ball, I would consider buying it because I just like the Great Ball.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, you can use it in Pokemon Go, right? For the original use of the Pokemon Go Plus, which is like to throw balls and everything. It's got some new functionality.
But it's better. It
is better.
Which is crazy to me that like they can't firmware up. They could.
Oh,
but
they
could.
Like it's like hardware.
It's like you could throw great and ultra balls with this thing. Like, yo, what kind of technology does this have that those don't have that they can't do that too? Like, I have the Pokeball Plus, and like, it's not like there's no. I have no right to complain about this because I didn't pay for it. Pokemon sent it to me, but like, how come that can't throw the Great Ball? Why not?
I know. Yeah. No reason, really.
No, it's because they're like, it's been a while since you bought some crap from us, so so here it is. And then the way you can use it with sleep is you can like press it before you go to bed and then press it when you wake up and it'll log everything for you. But then there's also a Pikachu inside it that like can sing a lullaby and all these other cute little things. It's like,
oh wait, I missed that. So it's like you just press. How do they read your sleep if it's not? Because like my Fitbit like is on my person.
You're supposed to put it next to your pillow. It says. So I don't know if it's like monitoring your breathing or something or what, but
I thought it was a heart rate thing, and that's how they get it accurate. Okay, interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
idea. But the thing that's crazy though, like I don't know how we didn't bring this up until now. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like industry leading somehow, because when they did the Pokewalker, like that was an industry leading thing. It was like a pedometer or whatever that was just better than all the other ones. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if this also is that somehow.
Yeah, like the gamers need more accurate analysis of their personal health.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like there's so many things like this where like it's dorks, it's exclusively dorks that like just like test it for like the rest of the world, right? Like Nintendo, it like inadvertently it made mobile gaming what it is, right? Like it's like just because they're
WarioWare made it, they just made mobile a whole industry.
Like people like he's like get the DS and like Brain Age and it's a Sudoku and all that stuff, and it's just like, oh yeah, cool. So now this is just a thing people do on their phones all day, all the time, huh? Like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so before we get into the main event, talking about the updates coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of February. They are, of course, Anthony Gonzalez, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Ty the Dude, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to become a producer just like they did, or you want to write into the show, or you want to find some of our other shows, or you just want to stop by and say, hey, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to all the places you can keep the conversation rolling between episodes of Nintendo Noise. So, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We've got some pretty big announcements here. We'll start off with the most timely one, right? There are 2 new Paradox Pokemon that are still available now. We've got the event going as we speak. Walking Wake is a new Suicune variant for Scarlet, and it is a water dragon type. It is extremely monstrous. It's like a very
large Pokemon.
It was interesting considering, like, when I think Suicune, it's like got this very like. It's very elegant. It's kind of slender. It's got like the wave going in its mane and everything. And then this thing just looks like a fucked up dinosaur monster. It's awesome.
It totally fucks with the lore of those 3 legendary beasts, like, because they were like made by Ho-Oh. I thought like they were like resurrected from the ashes of a burned tower. Now you're saying it's an alternate
dimension.
That's the thing, though.
A different dimension.
Yeah, is like I think it's in. They definitely acknowledge it in X and Y, but I don't remember if that's the first canon acknowledgement of it. It might have been in black and white before that, but yeah, they've just straight up said like, oh yeah, Pokemon's a multiverse, so if we change the rules, that's why. It's like, okay, cool.
That's why there's like 32 different reds. Like just every version, like Fire Red and Leaf Green, that red is different from the red and blue one, which is different from the Let's Go. All of that's different.
And
every iteration of a character is a new guy.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. Well, and one of my favorite things with that is I think it's on Did You Know Gaming. If it is, I'll try to link to it in the description. But there was this I think it was them. They did a translation of this like Pokemon like world book that came out around the release of Red and Blue, and it had never been translated into English before. And they had one of the original localizers translated into English, so we were able to get like a lot of kind of like cool little lore tidbits and stuff that had like not been said in the States, and a lot of it like acknowledges like things in the real world that like decidedly don't exist in the world of Pokemon and stuff like that. So it's like it's interesting how there are some things that have definitely stayed consistent over the years, but there's so many little things that like if you want to start poking holes, it's like that whole house of cards just comes stumbling down. But I thought it was pretty interesting looking at the base stat comparison of these two guys because, but like it seems to be consistent for all of them where there's like about a 10-point difference, and like it's like a very interesting like change in terms of what its kind of role would be, right? Like where Suicune is definitely like a defensive Pokemon, especially like as a special defender, and like this thing is definitely a much more aggressive special attacker. It's got 125 base special attack, 109 speed. Like it's definitely more of like a come out and smack kind of Pokemon, which is interesting. It's kind of neat how these things are like these weird, like, you know, mirror images of each other almost, like kind of like leaning into the whole like paradox distortion thing, you know, very cool.
Right. Even down to like the type of team that you will put them on. Like this is a Sun team Pokemon.
I could see that.
It has its signature move gets a 50% boost in the sun.
What's
and plus it has photosynthesis, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And that boosts its highest stat in the sun. So like you want this on a Sun team.
Yeah. Which is funny, yeah, because I mean, like Suicune definitely was a staple of rain teams at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Even in Sword and Shield. So like, yeah, like they're trying to switch, and it frustrated me because I wanted to use this Pokemon. I mean, one, can't use this Pokemon because it's not legal yet. And two, can't use this Pokemon because my team is like Rain. So I'm like, I could put him on there, but I'm not getting the most out of this Pokemon if I put it on there.
Yeah, you
And
got to
it's
make a new
like,
team.
Yeah, but I want to wait until we're gonna get to that. I assume Pokemon Home. I have a bone to pick. I am angry, but can't make that team until then.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about that in a second. So then the other one we got to look at was Iron Leaves, which is a Virizion variant. And it's instead of Grass Fighting, it's Grass Psychic. And again, right, like the original Pokemon, good special defender, right? Like pretty well-rounded stats. Whereas Iron Leaves is like definitely a physical attacker, 130 base special attack. Little quicker, still pretty good. I'm sorry, a little slower. And then still like, pretty beefy special defense as well. So could definitely see this being a pretty interesting one. Grass Psychic is a decent typing too, because it's like there's not a ton of attacking bug moves, which is, I believe it's only 4x weakness, right? With Grass Psychic?
It's only 4x weakness. It's only 4x weakness, but it does still have weakness.
Well, sure, yeah,
but the dark.
And then those are common attacking types, which is definitely problematic, but it's not a bad type.
Yeah, it's a good type, especially for a grass Pokemon. Usually when you get another type on a grass Pokemon, it makes it worse.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, definitely not the best defensive type to start out with. So yeah, it's a pretty good one. So yeah, talking of the third-party app support, we did get news that Pokemon Go is now able to connect to Scarlet and Violet, but that Pokemon Home support is supposed to be coming out, quote, in early 2023.
So angry.
Expound on that, AJ.
Cause I have Pokemon that I want to use. So my team that I'm switching out one slot. I have Tatsugiri on there, but I'm thinking I want to pivot Tatsugiri because I don't want to do Dondozo anymore. And Tatsugiri doesn't really fill the role that I wanted to use him for. But also I have Gudra, but I'm like, yo, what would be better than Gudra? It's Hisuian Gudra because he's also a steel type, and that helps because the fairy weakness that I have kinda in my team would be more dealt with if I have a steel dragon and not just a dragon, and it would be more physically defensive because physical attacking Pokemon are usually not strong against steel type. But I can't get my steel type Gudra because they don't have Pokemon Home. Also, it's a shiny Gudra, so even if they did the freaking Hisuian Zoroark thing and made it a event or a raid or something like that, I can't get my shiny Hisuian. And then what about my Sun team that I already have built in Pokemon Sun that Pokemon Sword and Shield, but can't use because no Pokemon Home. Just give me Pokemon Home. Why not now?
I know. Yeah, what do they have to do? What is the holdup? This game has been out for months.
I think it probably has something to do with the Pokemon Stadium rumors and stuff. They probably like, oh wait, this is harder than we thought it would be. That's what my assumption is.
Yeah, we haven't really had a chance to talk about that on this show. But yeah, there's that rumor that they're going to be updating Stadium on NSO to be able to support pulling in Pokemon from RBY. So
insane.
I don't know. Like, it could be that they're spread a little thin across those multiple projects, but yeah, it's something that you wish that they would have figured out, like going into launch, right, where they'd be able to kind of clearly communicate like what the timeline is and everything. But like, I guess it is fairly standard because this also happened during Sword and Shield, right, where there was like, okay,
I feel like we had it sooner than this though. Like
I think it was. I think it was sooner,
like February-ish. Yeah, like usually the game drops and they're like early 20 or the next year, early next year for Pokemon Home. But we're like kicking that out further now.
Yeah, and like I don't know. Like I wonder what the like what the decision is there. Like, is it a resources issue or is it like an intentional timing issue? Because if you think about like what happened with Worlds the last couple of years, where like it had been delayed and delayed and delayed. We finally got it last year, but it was like a little late. So it's like, is this maybe motivated by them wanting there to be like a full competitive year where there is no bank and the meta is just the native Scarlet, Violet, the Paladin Dex meta? And then you open that up.
Make those Pokemon not legal.
That's true.
Like when they added like Greninja and Charizard and and Cinderace, and now the waking Pokemon and what's the other? I don't even remember. Iron Leaves.
Iron Leaves. You got it.
And you can't use those in competitive right now. So like, just don't make them legal, so that we can build teams now for then, instead of scrambling to build teams later for later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair request. So jumping into the DLC of it all, we got the confirmation of Scarlet and Violet's DLC plans, right? The roadmap. The expansion is called the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero. There's just like with Sword and Shield, it's a two-parter. Part 1 is called the Teal Mask and is going to be released in the fall of this year. And then the Indigo Disc is part 2, and that's set to come out in winter of 2023. So seemingly a pretty quick turnaround between the two, right? Like even if it is like the beginning of fall and end of winter, you're talking about like maybe about a 4-month spread. So yeah, definitely going to be pretty on top of each other, which makes me wonder what the length of them is. If they're kind of timing them that close together. That's not to insinuate that they'll be like content light or anything like that, but I would imagine that they'll probably be somewhat similar in size and scope as what we got last time around.
This feels like it. If I don't know, maybe this is me speculating, but it feels like this is another delay kind of situation. Like the theming of the first one is supposed to be like a summer festival kind of situation. And wasn't Sword and Shield around that time frame? Like it was like July.
Isle of Armor was June.
Yeah. So
and then
it feels like they wanted that same thing where they did a summer release of DLC and a fall winter release of DLC, but they're not hitting summer. So is that what it is? Because it doesn't seem like it's content light.
Yeah, I guess they can get away with like pushing the school thing to the fall because in the West, kids do not go to school year round like they do in Japan. So
yeah,
they can squeak that in.
That was a real wake-up call for me when I played Persona 5. I was like, dang, they got these kids in school 24/7. Jesus, they're in school on Saturday.
And everyone's out here like, I want to move to Japan. No, you don't.
It's like I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah.
So the timing on them was June 17th for Isle of Armor, and then Crown Tundra was October. So definitely a bigger gap between them by like a decent amount. I wonder if the timeline was messed up at all by the need for them to like push out that big patch that just dropped as well.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe I think just with the way that production timelines usually work, they probably got pushed back on patching that stuff. Where they're like, oh, okay, we have problems in the base game that they were probably already working on by the time that the game even came out. Because, like, if I don't know if you've seen any of the coverage from the game beforehand, but the people that got to play Scarlet and Violet before it came out were saying that there was not really any frame rate issues in the release that they played, and the one that came out ended up being a different build. So it seems like there's some sort of issue that like has them like backed up almost.
I mean the game clearly has an optimization problem, and it's like I wonder if that is the case, right? If there was earlier builds that were more stable, you have to wonder like what is it that started gumming up the works, and that like they clearly just didn't have the level of time that they needed to squash the bugs,
Yeah. And this could be them giving themselves more time, which I'm here for. But
oh yeah,
I mean,
I would think that Not that they would want to, because they're usually secretive in this, just period. They're just a secretive company. But you would think that it would garner some goodwill to be like, look, we didn't give ourselves enough time. We're trying to rectify that by giving ourselves more time. That's why the DLC is coming out in this time frame.
Yeah.
But obviously, it is the Pokemon fan base, so there will be people that are somehow angry about that too. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's for sure. No matter what.
Mhm.
So aside from well, and I guess just to give you like a quick summary, right? In part 1, we'll be going to a new land called Kitakami for like a field trip, and then in the second one, you're going to be an exchange student at a place called the Blueberry Academy, which is adorable. But in addition to the story content and everything, both pieces of DLC will have a legendary associated with them. There's Ogerpon for the teal mask, and he like is a little kind of like bipedal guy. He's got like leaves on his feet and has like this big ornate teal mask that he, you can kind of see like an eye creeping out from the side in some of the photos and stuff like that. So guessing he's a grass type, right? Just based on the design and everything. But
I don't like him. He's ugly.
He's weird. He's definitely not my favorite looking legendary. The next one looks like a Neopet to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's Terrapagos or Terrapagos. And it's a kind of like celestial turtle. It's got like a big like gem and stone in the center of its shell. It's got these kind of like cloud like tails coming off of it. It's pretty cool.
It's
I like him.
cute.
Yeah,
Like
I like him for sure.
Like Roomba.
It does look like a Roomba.
It's a Roomba with many tails. It's a Naruto Jinchuriki or what Biju or whatever.
Looking at it, I'm interested in what its deal is gonna be. I feel like it's gonna have some kind of like type based gimmick. Because like if you look at on its shell, it has all these like like how a turtle shell
the type emblems and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like each one is kind of like a plate in the turtle shell. So I'm like, is it like a Pokemon that can like change its type or something? Can it
like Silvally?
Can it terrestrialize
This
into
is
like
where they
any
form
type?
the Arceus plate. They murder this Pokemon
Shit,
and
you're
they
right.
take its shell and make a plate out of it.
Oh my god. I'm getting Bop It vibes from this guy.
Yes.
You slap the plate.
I saw people posting this Pokemon being like, no more new types. Because this Pokemon.
Oh, right. Oh, whatever.
Also, we don't need more types. It's fine. Relax.
No.
So many of them
People
already.
want new types just to want new types. Like I talked to Parker about this a little bit on our podcast, and he was like, somebody asked in Q&A what new type we would want, and I was like, I don't think we need a new type. Like new types exist for balancing. Like it can seem like it's like this cool new thing. There's fairies in the Pokemon world now, but they did that because Dragon is overtuned.
Yeah,
like,
Dragon was OP for years, and it was like, all right, like let's splice this in here, right? I would
and
rather
then
than
same thing with Dark for Psychic.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was extremely dominant in Gen 1 and it needed a check. So here we go. And then they also made Steel for some reason, and then that was over, and then they tuned that one up.
And
so
then
we're
they
good.
had the rectify it.
But yeah, I feel like if anything, I would rather see them fix the types that suck. Like ice and rock types are both generally not good. Like any Pokemon that is a rock type or an ice type,
better now. It's not good.
It's
but
better.
It's better.
It's
because
better.
Of snow and
it's not as much of a liability as it was before, for sure.
Right.
But it's like one of those things where, like, any Pokemon that is either of those types would be better off not being that type.
Yeah.
Like
terrestrialization.
Yeah, for sure. So
I mean, and that's another thing. This Pokemon could be like the Eternatus of that.
Yeah.
I've seen people like in my chat talking about that.
That's
Where they're like,
that's
"Yo, what if it's an Eternatus kind of situation?" And that's where terrestrialization comes from. Is this Pokemon?
that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I'm wondering
Mm.
if the whole it's like maybe it can just turn into any type, and like that's its gimmick,
Mm.
right? Like it can terrestrialize, like rather than just having the one form, you can like it pulls up a Final Fantasy list and you scroll to what type you want or something like that, which would be ridiculous.
Something I brought up is like, what if it has like a dual Terra type kind of thing? Like it has like a base type, and then it can also just
Oh,
be dual Terra type.
that's
That could be
interesting. That would be really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. So then in addition to those two, in like the big like promo image that they showed off, there's 3 other Pokemon that look to be connected with the Teal DLC, and their names are Okidogi, who is a like buff dog man, wolf man, whatever. Monkey Dory, which is a little. He's like a. He's like a little ape. He looks like a tiny gorilla, and he looks like he's kind of like he's maybe got a little secret or something. A little mischievous.
Mojo Jojo ass.
Yes, for
Right.
sure. And then Pheasantipity, and just geez, these puns are next level. Which is it's a pheasant, right? Like that's what it is.
Mhm.
It's a bird of prey of some kind.
Mhm.
The thing that's interesting about them is each of them has a little like pink chain of some kind. Like on Okidogi, it's like a scarf, kind of like coming off of him, On Monkey Dory, it's like a little headband. And then for Pheasantipity, it's like like it looks like it's like a bow like tied around its chest. So
Yep.
obviously, we don't really know like what the deal is with these 3. Whether I would guess they're not legendary, considering like they called out that the other 2 are specifically legendary. But yeah, these guys.
Seems like we don't have a trio, so
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Yeah, maybe they're like they're like the like dogs, birds kind of equivalent. In the press release from the Pokemon Company, they say. It says this specifically. Players will also encounter new legendary Pokemon, Ogerpon in Part 1 and Terapagos in Part 2. And then in Part 1, the Teal Mask, 3 Pokemon named Okidogi, Monkey Dory, and Pheasantipity also appear. They are beloved by the people of the village as heroes that protected the land of Kitakami in the past, and stone statues are made in their likeness to express the people's gratitude. So I guess they are legends, but it's interesting that it specifically says 2 legendary Pokemon and then 3 other Pokemon
Yeah.
that will also
I mean,
appear.
like, if they were pseudos, would that be acknowledged? Like, explicitly?
Probably not, right? And
Yeah.
like that's what it seems like, that they are, I guess, like pseudo legendaries, because like obviously they are literally parts of a legend in this region.
Yeah, because if they're not commonly occurring in the wild, then I wouldn't. That's not really like a typical Pokemon, I don't think.
Can I throw out a weird? Here's my weird theory. I think Ogerpon is like the bad guy, and I feel like he has like Medusa powers, and like he like turned them to stone or something. They're not actually statues, and then like they'll come back because they help you beat him or whatever.
Yeah, I'm eager to
I
see.
can see.
I'm shooting
Does
from
look
the
like
hip
a
on
bad
that
guy.
one,
Yeah.
based on about 2 seconds
But
of looking
also,
at this.
like, the chain situation gives me vibes from the other legendaries, the treasure legendaries that we got in this video game. Like that's chained up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What are their names?
So it's like Chen Pao and I don't remember the other one.
I
There's
don't
3 other
remember
ones.
them
I don't
either.
remember.
The names are very
I
hard
don't
to
remember all of them.
remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's like a fish
it's like
and like a saber, lion, tiger,
it's interesting because
friggin' leopard thing.
I see what you mean about the chains, but they look like
Mhm.
they're a different. Like they actually look like chain link chains,
Mhm.
whereas this is more
Mhm.
like these are like purple, and they look like they're like more like almost fleshy, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's interesting to have her like, cause like the dog, like it's like a really like substantial neck thing. It doesn't look like scarf-like, you know what I mean? Whereas the others look like
Mhm.
kind of more like cloth. It's so weird. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know what to make of it, but there's
Yeah.
clearly a connection, right? Like there's something going on with the three of them there. So well, it remains to be seen. But before we get on to the last thing I want to touch on, which is a little bit of a conspiracy thing. This, I think overall, I guess I'm just wondering, like, how do y'all feel about this DLC package? You know, like I think, AJ, I know you played a good amount of the DLC in Sword and Shield and got pretty
I
into the
still
raids.
play
Okay,
the
Mhm.
Sword and Shield DLC.
so
Trying to get those shinies, man.
how are you feeling about this? Like, does this
I
excite
want to
you?
see I want to see that stuff. I mean, I'm down for this. But like personally, I'm more interested in like mechanical changes and features than I am like the lore stuff right now because we don't know enough to know enough, you know?
Sure.
Like these Pokemon look neat. Cool. But
Yeah.
I can't really do nothing about that right now. So I'll be down to know like, is there any type of features that encourages more multiplayer stuff? You know, like stuff that takes better advantage of the Union Circle,
Sure.
or something that is similar to the Max Raid Adventures. Because I think the Max Raid Adventures is the best thing that happened to Sword and Shield. Like that easily added another
Mm.
like 100, 200 hours of playtime for me, and I'm sure a lot of people in my chat. Um, so I think that them adding stuff like that to this game would be good. There's already like a decent amount of things that you can do multiplayer wise, like the union circles are fun. But for them to like double down on that and do more with it, I think would be a smart. So I'm interested in knowing that sort of thing. This stuff looks cool though.
How about you, Sierra? What do you like? I guess what are you hoping to get out of this, if anything? Is this something that like are you excited to have a reason to invest a bunch more time in Scarlet and Violet?
Yeah,
Across
I
these?
mean, I'm still playing it. I'm interested to see what the design is for like these individual like parts of the story. Yeah, because like I get
Yeah.
when they say they're going on a school trip, I just get a visual of like one long walkway where there's a bunch of festival booths, and then it's just like green field on the other. I'm like trying to envision like what it'll be like to roam around.
Yeah, like are they
You
going to
know,
be
what
like new big open maps? Like
right?
I
Because that's what I
guess.
love
Mhm.
about Scarlet and Violet is that you can get lost in the world that they've
Sure.
built. So, like, how will this, like, add on to that when you can just, like, play
Mhm.
base game and just, like, run around and look for shinies and, like, engage in battles that way? Yeah, definitely, like, besides story, like, what will these bring to the table? Like, even besides, like, mechanical, like, and, like, meta, like like like, improvements, like, what else, like, will we be able to look forward to? So yeah, I don't know, I'm probably gonna like it. I don't see why not, you know, I loved Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra. So,
I remember
fingers crossed
being
fingers crossed
impressed
my
by them.
beer.
You know, like I didn't
Yeah.
sink as much time into them as either of you did, but I remember being like, this feels deeper than I think I worried it might be. You know, so
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see, right? Because I think like they've evolved what the overworld experience is so much.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting to think that they're gonna make like a whole other like what is the size of that map? What's the scope of that map? Does it have as many secrets to discover, right? Like are there going to be all those nooks and crannies like there are in the proper Palladian overworld, you know?
Right.
I
But they're
imagine
I was gonna
yes, but
say
yeah.
I think that like I would almost be surprised if it wasn't better in some way. Because like everything that they've done in this realm, they've kind of been leapfrogging themselves. They toyed with the idea of open world a little bit in Sword and Shield, I mean in Sun and Moon. Towards the end of the game, that's kind of like an open area in like the I think it's Pony Pony Island.
yeah.
And then obviously the wild area, they did that. Then Arceus, they developed that further. Now this game, open world, and even like within Sword and Shield, they went from wild area to all the area. I mean, all the new areas being like wild area rather than there being routes and then this one centralized area that is the wild area. Um, are they going to do that again? And in some way evolve what it is to be in the open world in this game when you're in these new areas or these new parts of the map or the the field trip locales or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, what is Kitagami? Like, what is it in relation to, like, Johto and Kanto? If, like, they're
Hmm
going, because obviously it's, like, a nod to, like, they're going to Japan. So, like,
hmm
I'm interested to know if, like, is it a region? Is it a town? What is it?
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, because like the way they talk about it, they say the land of Kitakami. So it's like,
hmm
is that like a small island? Is this like
You're
part
looking
of
at
a
like a
new
Sevi
region?
Island situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. And for what it's worth, I just Googled it. It is a city in Japan, Kitakami. It's a real city.
Mm.
And it's not very big. Its population is like 92,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So it's not particularly large. So I guess it could just be like a prefecture in the equivalent of Japan, right? Because
So maybe we're looking at more of like a second Mesagoza in this game rather than like another like open world area,
Yeah.
because
yeah,
Mesagoza is like the hub town that has like a sampling of all the things that are in all the other towns.
right.
Maybe it's another one of those.
And like I could see something like that making sense, right? Cuz the idea of it being like a school trip feels
hmm
more focused, right? Like a trip usually
Right.
has parameters. You're there for a reason. You're doing a thing,
hmm
right? Like with your classmates. Whereas like the idea of the second one being like you're an exchange student, I could see that being like, oh, well, we're gonna like let
You're
you.
living at a new place.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like it would make
Yeah.
sense that you'd get let off your leash a little bit more to like just explore and because like you live there now for however long, right?
hmm
So I don't know. Like it's interesting, and I wonder like what is the relation between these areas, and like how easy is it to go back and forth between them? All that stuff is like
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting, because I wonder if it will feel more akin to like what you're saying, AJ, where it's like this becomes a replacement for your need to go anywhere else, and it's like a post game hub, or is it more like it kind of was in like Gen 2, where it's like, oh, there's certain things that you're going to want to do in Kanto. There's certain things in Johto that you can only do there.
Yeah.
And,
That's more so what I'm leaning towards. Like, I think it's going to be not necessarily replace Mesagoza, but like add on to it, where it's like, kind of in a similar vein to what they did with Sword and Shield's DLC, where they had the kiosks or whatever that you can spend or on to like craft items with the Cramorant crafting thing, and then to like redeem those to get cheaper Pokeballs and like TMs made and like that sort of stuff. Like if they have some type of move to it or stuff like
yeah.
that. To give you a reason where it's like, oh, I gotta head over here because I want to train this Pokemon and they have this, and this, or I want to get these clothes, or another hub area to do things similar to what Mexico's.
Yeah, and like I probably like like you said with clothes and stuff, like give you a place to add new content for the sake of the DLC, right? Like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So we're gonna close things out, like I said, with a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but I thought it was interesting enough to talk about. We'll see, if there's any fire where there's this smoke. But the story as it goes is that there is a pretty significant new hardware rumor that's making the rounds right now. It originated on 4chan, so grain of salt, right? But here's what we know. So there is a leaker who claims to be a programmer from a team that is at like an Pokemon outsourcing company, is how they put it, right? And they got some attention for accurately predicting a lot of the information that came to pass in the Pokemon Presents yesterday, including the name of the DLC and some of the specific details of the announcements, like the new Paradox Pokemon and all that stuff. So with that, that's the kind of the thing that lends credence to what they've said, right? But if you look at the actual full post, at the end of it, they make mention of some new hardware. So I'll just read their comment in full so that I'm not editorializing here. But what they said was, I'm a programmer at a Pokemon outsourcing company. My English is very poor, so I used machine translation to complete this post. The theme of the DLC is Hidden Treasure of Area Zero and Hexagon. Version 1.2.0 includes dressable clothes as a reward for DLC purchasers. Will include these are like poor translations of the Pokemon names that we had revealed, but then this is the explanation. These are Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion. The first one, which is the Suicune, right, is Water Dragon. The second one is Grass/Esper type, which again is probably a poor translation of Psychic.
Mm-hmm.
A mystery Pokemon with a green mask, special terrestrial appearance. The third legendary Pokemon is a large blue turtle. And then the last sentence is, we are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. So to remind you, DLC 2, right, is supposed to come out in December. So the idea there is, I guess, new hardware in December.
Winter.
Right, that's true, winter. So that, that's a big enough window that includes like that pivotal Black Friday window, all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
I guess
what I would assume. Is like it's late November, probably mid to late November would be my assumption.
Right. So the only other context that I'll offer here is there is a Twitter account called Centro Leaks, which many people look to for Pokemon and Nintendo leaks. They've claimed that they were able to verify that the leak was posted before the presentation, which seems to lend some legitimacy to it. There is obviously a lot here that I think you can use as like dings against taking this to the bank, right? I think the fact that they got a lot of those things correct, right, like could mean that they are who they claim to be. But that also, with the fact that it's translated, right, like that's something that I think leaves a lot of room for either misinterpretation on our part or things not communicating properly, right? Where it's like the idea that there's like a new model of Switch doesn't necessarily mean we're talking about a Switch 2, right? But graphical enhancements, it's like, who's to say, right? I think the thing that's interesting is that the last time that we had a significant rumor about new Nintendo hardware was December 2022. There was a report from John Linneman from Digital Foundry, who said that Nintendo had canceled their plans for the mid-generation Switch, like the Switch Pro, right, that we've been talking about for years. So it's also possible that this person potentially has information that, has not made it from on high down. Like, who's to say, right? There's a lot of room for error and mistruth, right, in a rumor like this. That is coming from, an unverified source. But given the context around it and what else proved to be true, there's definitely a chance that there's something going on here. What did y'all make of this?
I mean, I could see it. Like you've already said, I think that there's a lot of reasons to not assume this to be true. But it would make sense. I don't think that like there's definitely like a contingent of people that is like rallying behind this idea that like the Switch is like old and like they need to replace it, even though like the performance of it like commercially doesn't really reflect that at all. So them trying to like appease both ends of that with like a Game Boy Color sort of situation. I think that that's also the weird like sticking point here where like people have changed this into or have branded the idea of like doing a mid-generation refresh as like a unproven thing, which is like the PlayStation 4 Pro and like the Xbox One X or whatever, right? Like that was a one-off thing. But it's not like this concept is due to Nintendo. Like they did Game Boy Color, they did Game Boy Advance SP, Nintendo DS Lite, Nintendo DSi. Like they have done this for their entire existence. So like it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility for Nintendo. Even Wii, like pretty much every successful platform that Nintendo has ever done, they've been like, okay, let's parlay the success a little bit further and do the same console so that it still applies to like records when we sell another 20, 30 million units of this mid-cycle refresh. And then we'll just lump it in with the 120 some odd units that we sell of this console.
Yeah.
So like it would make sense. It would line up to me. But I could also just as much seeing them like waiting and just doing another console.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is like I feel like we've been at that point where they could do like the next Switch for like a minute, just like a minute. Because like if you think about the
Mhm.
Wii came out in 2006, and then the Wii U, it wasn't like a full 10 years. It came out in like what 2012.
Yeah,
Mhm.
2012, or maybe 2013.
Yeah. I'm just surprised, like, if the well, no, like, from a marketing standpoint, the timing, if they do it around Black Friday is not surprising. But
Mhm.
I thought that they might wanna, like, push it out around Breath of the Wild 2, because like, that would
Yeah.
be a strong launch title to
Mhm.
release a new Switch 2 or Plus or Ultra or whatever they decide to
Or
name
Plus
it.
Ultra.
Mhm. True,
Uh,
Did
true,
not
true,
mean
true.
to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Thinking of stuff, but, I don't know.
that, that
I
the Black Friday thing is so interesting to me because it's like I think you're right that it makes sense to be like, yeah, you want to put out a new hardware at this time where everybody's like excited to buy new products or whatever. But like,
yeah.
I also feel like when you want to like use that last Black Friday before you put out a new piece of hardware to be like, let's really push the Switch one more time and have another
Mhm.
record-setting, holiday, and then launch it
Right.
in like March or in early
That's what I
June or something
thought.
like that when there's nothing else
Mhm.
going on and everyone's like, yep, I'm ready. Like
Right.
it's I don't know.
I know, right? It's just like if this is really gonna be the timing, they must have a really big bet behind whatever this next upgrade is going to be for them
Mhm.
to be not afraid to like take this risk during the holidays.
Right.
It's just
I
wild
also
because
think
you'd
that
think, like you said, that they'd want to put it alongside Zelda because that would
Yeah.
that would
Mhm.
be a absolute system seller, right? Like,
Because the other thing is like, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but like a lot of the Hyrule overworld in the new trailer of Tears of the Kingdom, it looks similar, if not the same, to Breath of the Wild. So, like, this current I can see now how, like, this current Switch would be able to handle it. I just thought, like, again, with that, like, huge IP Zelda, like, Nintendo diehards love Zelda, that would help like, dissuade any, like, fears they'd have about, like, making that conversion over to, like, a new console, like,
yeah,
we know their history, like, they're afraid of shit tanking.
sure,
Um, so I don't know.
I mean, it's also worth noting that like the original Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game. This is a
Yeah, that
Switch
too.
game.
Yeah.
right,
So there
Yeah.
there is like like headroom that they didn't have before
true,
Mhm.
to start from the ground up. But the other thing that I think is also important to note if we're looking at precedent, like you brought up the gap between the Wii and the Wii U, if you also look at the lead up to the Wii U and the place that they were in with the Wii to Wii U, like obviously the Wii was really successful. Towards the end of the Wii, though, less so. Like
yeah,
people were like
Mm.
really dying off of the Wii, and it started happening around like 2009, like 2010. Is when people were like, I don't know about this. So they were like, okay, time for us to pivot. That's not really the case with Switch, and also with the Wii U, they gave themselves over a year to promote this thing and say, all right, we're finally doing the Wii HD thing that's been rumored forever. Here's our
yeah.
concept, and they showed us that, and then they announced the Wii U and like that whole event and stuff like that. If we're getting a new Switch in December of this year, I think we would have heard about it like
That's
surely
the
by like
thing.
January, like at the
Yeah,
latest, you
you
know?
think a year,
You'd
you
think,
know?
Right.
but
But if it is a refresh sort of situation, I could see them announcing something like that at
yeah,
like a summer event,
maybe
Yeah.
you
it's
know.
it.
I
It is
Of course.
interesting though, because like I think with the Switch, they have a unique opportunity, right? Because like they had that financial report, I think it was last year's, where they talked about, that was where there was that quote from them seeing the Switch as having a 10-year life cycle, and that like they felt that the being able to transition that audience from Switch to the Switch successor was like a huge challenge that they were like actively thinking about, right? And I think, you know, you brought up the Game Boy Color earlier, right? And I think like there are examples of things like that where they've been able to leverage the name recognition of an already successful product and be like, well, this is the next one, right? Like Game Boy to Game Boy Advance, right? Or DS to 3DS. And I think the problem with those is like there was generally a drop off, right? The Advance was not as successful as the Game Boy proper, and the 3DS didn't sell as well as the DS. I wonder if Switch has that same problem, because I think the Nintendo Switch branding is extremely strong, and I think it's ubiquitous with Nintendo in a way that their other hardware generations have not always been, even if they were successful. Because you look at the Switch, out of all of the examples that we've given, right, all the refreshes that you brought up, the Switch is the only console that they've put out where they did not ever cut the price. The price has been the same for 7 years, right?
Right.
There's not been a need for that. Let's knock the price down and shift units.
How do we get more people to buy this?
Yeah, because it's already immediately understandable why it's attractive, and it's got a great library. And it's a great console, you know. I think it sells itself in a lot of ways, and I wonder if they couldn't just come out and for the first time in their history just own it and be like Nintendo Switch 2. You know what that means, right? Whereas like that's not a problem.
But to your point, that's kind of why I think that they're probably leaning more towards Game Boy Color, because Game Boy, when you look at Game Boy sales, it's grouped with Game Boy Color. Like Game Boy Color is like a different thing for them, you know. But like they were able to like group it together. I think that we'll get a Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it. But if they're looking at the immediate future to do a new thing, it seems more like the place that they're leaning towards is like being Switch but longer, rather than doing, we're not DS anymore, we're 3DS, which is a new thing. It's different. It's like it's the Game Boy still. It's the Game Boy still. It's not. But for everybody that's keeping track of records, it's the Game Boy. You know, that's what I think. Because that's really, I don't think it's the only way that they beat PS2, but I think it's the easiest way that they beat PS2. For sure. And I think they want to beat PS2.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I think the thing that's interesting there, though, is like Sarah and I were talking about this offline earlier today, where it's like they mentioned the Switch having the 10-year life cycle, and I think if this was a year ago, if this was 2 years ago, I think I would be like right there with you. We're like, yeah, like don't mess with a good thing. Like you just release a stronger Switch, the games run better, no exclusives. It's just, you know, a better product for the enthusiast, right? The way that the PS4 Pro was, or the Game Boy Color, or any of these innumerable examples we can point to. But now it's like the Switch came out in 2017. You know, like the 10-year life cycle that they're talking about is, we're not far away from it at this point.
Yeah, we're almost there.
So like the idea that like, right? I know, isn't that messed up? The idea that like next year, right, would be when the new, so say December rolls around, right, and they have a similar thing that they did with the Switch, where they're like, hey, the NX that you've heard rumored, it exists, and we're gonna show it to you in a couple weeks at a dedicated event. I could see them doing that end of this year, and then setting up, you know, our expectation that it comes out next year, then
I'm completely with you there.
2 more years of Switch, while that is the new, whatever the successor gets established.
Yeah, right. I agree. I think that my only thing is like if people are pretty sure that this is the case, which I'm not. I don't think any of us here are. That this is for sure going to be a December 2023 thing. That is more so what makes me like, if we're getting something in December 2023, it's not a new generation. But if we get an announcement of a new generation towards the end of the year and they start to roll it out next year, that I could imagine. Because I don't think
Yeah.
when they said a 10-year life cycle for Nintendo Switch, they meant 10 years of just Nintendo Switch. I think
Yeah, I agree.
that's unrealistic, even for them. And even for where the Switch is at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. I think it again, they want to be PS2.
Yeah.
And PS2, the majority of the consoles that they sold was after PlayStation 3 was even out. It was once they were like, all right, PlayStation 3's out. This is this well-known proven thing. It's $99 now. Go buy it. I think that's where the Switch is really going to take off, where it's like, okay, Switch Lite, $100. Nintendo Switch proper, $200. OLED, $250. Go crazy.
Yeah.
And then they sell 100 million more.
I honestly think they could probably go even a little bit lower. You know, like
I mean, they definitely could, but I mean, like, there's going to be more price drops. Like,
Sure.
until this thing stops selling, like they never officially
thing,
dropped
though,
the price
right?
of Switch.
There's gonna be
It's
more.
not going to be one.
We haven't even gotten one yet,
One
though.
and done. Exactly. It's not going to be one and done. I just think that with the first price drop, they're not going to go that low because they don't have to.
Yeah, they want to still have like room to cut it later, but I don't know though. You know, it's like you think about. I remember there was a point where like that the 2DS, the flat one, right? Like the original, that was like $75. Like that thing was so unbelievably cheap. And the last thing I'll say about the model thing is you mentioned the thing about them having like a new SKU, but not a new SKU. This is maybe crazy. I wouldn't be that surprised if they came out with a Switch Lite that had OLED screen.
Yeah.
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 That'd be an easy, you know, another thing to put out.
It's also an easy Pokemon thing. Most of the Switches have been, I mean, well, the Scarlet one breaks that a little bit. But the Sword and Shield one is a light. The Brilliant Diamond Shining Pro one is a light. But Let's Go is a regular Switch. And this one is a OLED. I think it's a OLED. Yeah, the Scarlet Violet OLED. So
yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah,
I could see that maybe being the solution.
I mean, like this whole time, I thought that maybe they were holding off because of like component like shortages, but
Yeah.
maybe not anymore.
I mean, that's a whole other thing to think about too, right? Is like the chip that they use, the Tegra chip that is like old as hell. Like it was like antiquated when they started using it, and I'm pretty sure that it's only in development now for Switch. So like that could be another factor.
It was like the time frame for the Tegra chip that they use it's in line with what like other console manufacturers usually do. Like especially Nintendo. Like Nintendo usually uses chips that are like 3-4 years old.
Yeah.
But the Tegra chip was like 2 years old. For at the time that the Switch came out.
So yeah,
so
it
it wasn't
mean,
that old.
But this many years later, it's old as hell.
Now it's old. Yeah, right.
And I don't even mean that to like talk about it as performance, but more like I'm sure Nvidia would love to stop producing this thing exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 100%. and use something more modern that they are already producing, right? So like that could also maybe be a motivating factor. Maybe we do get one with like a new chipset.
See Nintendo commissioning a custom chip this time, because like obviously it's a easier investment for them coming off the Wii U to be like, let's get something off the shelf. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
But now 120 million units later, they're like, all right, let's spend some money now. So I could also see them do that too.
Potentially, yeah. I do wish we had Steve to comment on that, because I wonder if they would bother not only for the additional hardware investment, but I also think that having a like more standard set makes it easier to port stuff to your hardware. And like that was a huge victory for the Switch, especially in the early days, was like how any indie developer was like, put your game on Switch, it'll sell
think it would be
5 times better.
Like, yeah. Like I don't think it would be like a custom architecture or anything like that. I just think that I could see them being like, but let's do that chip that you have there, but instead of like focusing on like raw horsepower, let's make it even more efficient, or you know, like
creating like
let's put 2 more cores on this one, you know.
That would be sick. Well, yeah, you know, we'll have to see on this one. You know, it's you got to take rumors like this with a grain of salt, especially because how often stuff ends up coming to pass where it's like partly true and then plans change. Like look no further than the Metroid Prime remaster that just came out, and how long we knew that thing existed before we finally saw it, right? So,
it got rated like 18 months ago.
yeah. Right. So it's you never know where stuff's gonna go with Nintendo. I think that they definitely react to the market when they need to. So like the idea that they had a refresh in mind and they decided it wasn't worth doing because the thing's still selling like hotcakes. Like I believe that, So
Yeah.
I would
That was my assumption when they announced the OLED. I was like, this was the Switch Pro. But they were like, there's a chip shortage. We don't really need to do that. Let's just use all the screens that we ordered and this new thing that's just the regular ass Switch. I think that's probably what they.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So yeah, I think this is just one of those ones we're gonna have to wait and see on. I would be surprised if we don't know more about Nintendo's plans for new hardware by the end of the year. Because I think kind of sunsetting the Switch after Tears of the Kingdom, it just makes sense. Whether or not it makes business sense, I guess, is the question. But we'll wrap it up there for today. AJ, thank you so much for joining us. Let the kids know where they can find you.
You can find me on youtube.com/watchredirect or twitch.tv/watchredirect, where I stream 3 times a week at least. You can also find me on Twitter at AJ McRae Jr.
Go give them a follow.
Sometimes.
We'll have some links down below. Everybody go click on them. Make sure that you tell AJ that we sent you, and, be your lovely selves. So, if you want to write into us and you want to let us know your thoughts about this week's Pokemon Presents, your thoughts about the future of Scarlet and Violet, or your thoughts about the future of the Switch hardware platform, make sure you write into us. There's a bunch of ways you can get in touch, but you can find links to all of them at flipscreen.games. Whether you want to drop us an email, join the Discord, however you choose to get involved, we'd love to hear from you, and we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been AJ, she's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Mama.